There is no one who hasn't heard of the Walt Disney. He's one of the most famous figures in the 20th century, and yet most people hardly know anything about him. Although he became one of the most successful men in history. He left school at the age of 16 and then studied art for a short time. By the early years of this century, he had already started to produce cartoons in Hollywood in partnership with his brother Roy, who for some reason never managed to become as famous as Walt. Disney is perhaps most well known on account of his lovable cartoon character, Mickey Mouse, who first appeared in 1928 in a film called Steamboat Willie. One of the most popular cartoon films of all time is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which was the first full-length cartoon in the history of the cinema. By the 1950s, Walt Disney had become one of the world's major producers of films for cinema and television. He also published books for children. What do you know about Walt Disney? There is no one who hasn't heard of Walt Disney. He's one of the most famous figures in the 20th century. When did he start to produce cartoons? By the early years of the century, he had already started to produce cartoons in Hollywood. The word famous is synonymous to popular. Did he produce films? Yes, he did. By the 1950s, Walt Disney had become one of the world's major producers of films. Write the verbs in the right tense form. When Mr. Brown retired, he bought a small cottage in a seaside village. The cottage was built in 1588 but was in a good condition. Mr. Brown was looking forward to a quiet life, but in the summer holidays he got a shock. Hundreds of tourists came to the seaside village. Mr. Brown's cottage was the most interesting buildings in the village, and many of the tourists came to see it. From morning till night there were tourists outside the cottage. They kept looking through the windows, and many of them even went into Mr. Brown's garden. Translate the sentences from Armenian into English. Եղբայրս չի կարող գալ մեզ հետ այդ քննարկմանը. My brother can't come with us in that discussion. Արդեն շատ ուշ էր, բայց մենք դեռ չէինք ավարտել մեր աշխատանքը. It was already late, but we hadn't finished our work yet. Այս փոքրիկ քաղաքը հայտնի էր հնագույն պատմությամբ. This little city is famous for its ancient history. Պարոն Ադամսը սովորաբար ժամանակին է գալիս, նա չի ուշանում. Mrs. Adams usually comes on time, he isn't late. Եթե անձրևը դադարի, մենք կգնանք զբոսանքի միասին. If the rain stops, we will go for a walk together. Speak on the following topic, the United States of America. There are 50 states in the United States of America. Two of these states, Alaska and Hawaii, are not connected to the other states. The USA are washed by the Pacific Ocean, in the west by the Atlantic Ocean, in the east by the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico in the south. In the north are situated Great Lakes. More than 150 million people live in the United States. The United States is a young country. It is sometimes called New World. Over the last 400 years, millions of people have come to start a new life in this new world.